Hey Rockstar, Matt Theriault here at Epic Real Estate. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's literally a million ways to make $1 million in real estate. But there is one definite way that won't make you a dime. I mean, it is the worst way to invest in real estate. And I say it's the worst way because it's got more people fooled than any other way. This worst way is how most of the world does it. And they don't even know they're doing it. And maybe that's you. We'll see. But that's why it's the worst, because it impacts the most people. And I'll share with you what that is, why it is, and I'll give you 3 options so you can avoid this wealth-stealing landmine to make sure that it doesn't get you too. All right, so let's get into it. And I'm not going to do the lame build up here and keep you in any sort of suspense. I'm going to tell you right away. But I'm aware by revealing the punchline up front that I'm risking losing your attention. You know, regardless of what you initially think about this worst way to invest in real estate, stay with me. Do yourself a favor, because it's a real eye-opener. And because it's going to potentially challenge everything that you've believed up to this point your entire life. I mean, it's often a very emotionally charged topic of which I've debated many in the past, but I've never really laid it out quite like the way that I'm going to lay it out for you here. So I'm going to ask you to reserve your opinions, reserve your emotions until the very end. And, you know, if you don't like what you see, if you don't like what you hear, at the end, you can have your old way of thinking back. Is that fair? Guaranteed. You can have it back. No risk to you. Okay, so here goes. For most people, their biggest purchase in life, one they consider to be an investment for the future, is their home. The worst way to invest in real estate is to think of your home as an investment, because it's a terrible investment. Terrible. Because it loses the owner money every single year. I mean, sounds crazy, right? I mean, have you seen the math on it? Well, let me show you. And after the math, as promised, I'll then give you 3 simple, easy to follow options and how to correct the course for yourself. So, before I do the math though, we have to agree on a couple of assumptions. First, we need to agree on the definition of an investment. So to keep it really simple, let's just agree that an investment is something that will give you back more than you put into it. Fair? So it's something that just gives you back more than you put into it. Simple. Nothing challenging here so far. Second assumption, or set of assumptions. As I go through the math with you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use national average figures. And I had to visit a half dozen websites or so to locate all of the relevant statistics. So I'm just working with statistics, the average national figures. And I share that with you right now because I understand that real estate is local. And based on where you live, some of the numbers may not be applicable to you. And I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm just anticipating that. So if you should see some discrepancies per your market, just focus on the model. Focus on what the bigger conversation is. And then later, what you can do is you can just go plug in the relevant numbers for where you live. Alrighty? So I want you to know this took me a very long time to put together. And I was happy to do it. I had a lot of fun doing it, actually. And all I ask for you in return is just pound that like button, ring that bell, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. And if at the end you get it and you want to demonstrate that you're in the know with your friends and your family, if you want to be one of the cool kids, feel free to share this video with them also. Alrighty, so I've got a lot to cover. I don't want to take up a ton of your time to do it, so I just want to warn you that I'm going to go fast. And so what I did, so I could go fast, I did all of the math in advance. Then at the end, though, if you'd like to see, I'll go ahead and I'll show you the figures and the actual calculations. Alright, so let's not waste any more time. This house right here. Let's say you bought this home 30 years ago for $113,900. That was the median home price in the United States 30 years ago. And per the national average appreciation rate over the last 30 years, those same 30 years, that was 5.4%. Today your home would be worth $551,749. So your home's value increased by almost 5 times. What a great investment, right? Here we are 30 years later, your home is paid off free and clear, and it's worth a whopping $551,749. This is a real promising start, isn't it? I mean, how could this be the worst way to invest in real estate? Well, let's look at it. If 30 years ago, you put down 20%, that's how most people buy their house, that's how they did it then, it's how they do it now. So that would have been $22,780 as your down payment, of which you would then borrow from a bank the balance, and back then, 30 years ago, the average mortgage rate was 10.34%. So you borrow the remaining amount of $91,120 from the bank, and then you promise to pay it back over the next 30 years. That's how we ended up here. And you made your payments faithfully for 30 years. So now the total of your initial down payment and 30 years of payments, you add all of that up, and you've invested $318,926 into your house. So your $113,900 investment didn't really multiply by 5, did it? No, because you actually paid $318,000 for it. I mean, the house is now worth $551,000, but it's not 5 times. Still decent. There's still a respectable equity gain of $232,823, right? So that's still a 73% return, but it's not 5 times. But it does beat a sharp stick in the eye. So let's just keep going. We'll keep looking. So we still have property tax to account for. So the national average is 1.3%. And over 30 years, that amounted to $44,762. So let's subtract that from our gains, and we're left with $188,060. But we're still not done. We have to insure the house. We need insurance. So this was actually a really tough number to come up with based on the different markets and the big fluctuations of insurance prices over the years. But I just gave it the old eyeball test, and I came up with an average of $100 per month. It's likely much more than that, but I just wanted to keep this example really conservative. So we'll use $100 a month. And over 30 years, there's another $36,000 of expense, right? So our gain now drops to $152,060. So are we done yet? Nope. Unfortunately, you see, this is our house, and we're responsible for maintenance, aren't we? I mean, when something breaks, we got to fix it. It's our house. So this number I was actually able to find. The average maintenance cost for a house is 1% of its value per year, leaving us with an additional expense of $81,083 over 30 years, leaving us with just $70,976 of profit. But it's still $70K. It's not that bad. Or is it? Well, take that $70,000 and divide it by the total invested into the house. That would be $480,771. That's the number you get when you add up all of the expenses, the numbers there in red. And we're left with a 15% return. Now that's not bad at all, is it? Or is it? You see, it took you 30 years to earn a 15% return. You got to divide that by 30 to get your annualized return, and you're left with 0.5% annual return. 0.5%. I mean, with that number, you are barely keeping up with today's dismal savings accounts. So let me ask you this. Do you consider a savings account an investment? No, you don't, do you? Not at 0.5%, right? I mean, per the law of 72, that would take you 144 years to double your money. That's not an investment, not in my book. I mean, I won't live long enough to see that happen. And just think, here, right up here, just a few minutes ago, you thought you've 5 times your money in 30 years. So if we compare apples to apples, your home to a savings account per their returns, does it then make sense to refer to your home as an investment or a savings account? Same result, right? So really your home is more of a low interest forced savings account than it is an investment, isn't it? Actually, no. It's not even as good as a savings account for 2 reasons. One, because what if you need some of that money that you've saved? You can make easy withdrawals from the savings account, right? But how do you get your money out of your house? All that money that's stuck in your house. You can't. You aren't liquid like a savings account. And that brings me to the second reason it's not as good of an investment as a savings account, or it's not as good as a savings account. Because if you want money out of your home, you either have to sell it or refinance it to access your money. And then what's the result there? You do indeed get access to your money. But unlike a savings account, you have to pay that money back. You have to start pumping money back into your home to pay off that new mortgage or pay off that new credit line that you just created. And here's where it gets really insane. You worked 30 years to pay off your home, to only be forced to pull money out and start all over again. And countless people do this every single year. But hey, at least it's 0.5%. It does fit within our definition of an investment, right? I mean, I suppose you could have done worse. So maybe it's not the worst way to invest in real estate. Or is it? Does this really fit our definition of an investment? Because at the beginning, we defined an investment as something that will give you back more than you put into it. And this qualifies, right? You did get a positive 0.5%. Or did you? You see, there's one thing that I haven't brought up. That's inflation. And I saved it for last because it's not really needed to prove my point, first of all, but it is needed if you want to be accurate. And I brought it up for last because most people just don't take this into consideration because most people don't understand how inflation works, and really most people don't feel it working. But if you don't understand how this works, I'll try and make it easy here. The inflation rate for the last 30 years has averaged right around 4%. And that can vary a bit depending on who you ask. And typically it's thought to be a lot higher than that, considering the food and energy, stuff like that aren't factored into inflation. But what we'll do is we're going to use 4%, again, to be as conservative as possible. I mean, this home investment, it's bad enough as it is, right? No need to kick this house while it's down. So we'll use a 4% average inflation rate over the last 30 years. So look at that. Look, due to inflation, you didn't save a thing. You lost. Your return on investment is not 0.5%, but in reality, like negative 3.5%. Now we're without a doubt outside the definition of an investment. It's official. Your home is not an investment. But because most people think it is, it qualifies as the worst way to invest in real estate because it impacts more people than any other way. That makes it the worst. Bummer, huh? Hey, bright side. Look at this. You still have $70,976, right? I mean, you're not destitute. You still have a little bit left. And that's a decent amount of money. Or is it? Because if you're not following me on the inflation example, it can easily be explained right here with this remaining $70,000. As you see, this amount would have paid for almost 3/4 of your house 30 years ago. But because of inflation, it couldn't even cover the 20% down payment on that same house today. So did the house go up in value? No. It actually probably dropped in value due to age and wear and tear. I mean, it's a 30-year-old house. See, what inflation did was decrease the value of your money because you need more money to buy the same house because the money is worth less. The home is not worth more, your money is worth less. And that's why your investment resulted in a negative 3.5% annual return. And that's not just the last 30 years. You could have pulled out any 30-year period in the last 100 years and you would have seen very similar results. So let's pause. I can hear the wheels turning. You've probably got a lot of yeah buts, right? What about this? What about that? Like nobody has a 10% mortgage today. I would have refinanced multiple times bringing down the payment. Yeah, you could have, easily. And you would have, I agree. Or my property taxes are lower than that example. Or I've experienced greater appreciation in my area. I get it. There are a lot of variables at play. But would the variables in your market have made a significant difference? Because what you'll find with the variables when you start playing with all of them and getting really accurate per your market is that there's a lot of give and take with them. What's gained in the appreciation is taken away from the taxes, vice versa. You see, over a 30-year period, you would need several of these variables to align just right to impact the return enough to classify your home as a good investment. And because you need these variables to align just right, and you have absolutely no control over them, a gamble would be a better description of your home than an investment. So, what do we do now? How do we use this information going forward? Because I don't want to depress you. That wasn't the point. I don't want to leave you hanging. I'm not going to do that. Yet, none of us do have a crystal ball. We don't know what the future holds. Only how the past has performed. So, let's consider this. We'll do our best to predict the future and consider that I could have pulled out any 30-year period in the last 100 years, and we would have seen similar results. So let's pretend the next 30 years just not going to be any different. So we'll use the exact same math, and then we'll extrapolate that out over the next 30 years in the exact same manner, but this time we'll use something we do know for sure, today's historically low interest rates. Because as of the recording of this video, it's not too difficult to get a 5% rate on a home mortgage. But let's say you were able to magically pull off one of those 3% loans that were readily available just a few years ago. Alrighty? I'll give you that. I mean, surely that's going to make a difference in our return, right? That's a 7% differential on the cost of the money that we're going to borrow from the bank to purchase our home. That has to make a difference. A big difference even. Well, let's see. In this next scenario, what we'll do is we'll use the exact same figures, national averages, and calculations as we did in the first example, with the exception of the interest rate, as if we were going to buy this same house today for its fair market value of $551,749. We'll still put 20% down. We'll use the same figures for appreciation, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. And the only thing we're going to change is the interest rate on the mortgage. So instead of 10.34%, we're going to use a flat 3%. So that should impact the end result quite a bit. I mean, over a 30-year period, that's a significant difference. So after 30 years, this $551,000 house, it's going to be worth $2,384,000. And after doing the exact same calculations as we did with the property that you purchased 30 years ago, we end up with an annualized ROI of 2.35%. That's almost 5 times better. But the return still doesn't outpace inflation, does it? Here, let me go to the computer and I'll show you the actual math. So here's the spreadsheet I created. Over here on the left was scenario 1, where we started 30 years ago. Everything in yellow is a variable. I just started with the median price and then started plugging in the 20% down payment, the number of payments, the interest rate, the appreciation, property tax, insurance, and maintenance. And that's where we ended up with 0.5% or 0.49%. All right, and then over here, what I did over here is I just figured out the actual maintenance table. So this was 1% per the value per year with the appreciation rate. So it was adjusting for the appreciation. I just did the same thing over here, all the same numbers. So I just came over here, and instead of using this number of 113,000, I just put 551. That was the only thing I changed. And then I came down here just to do our super low interest rate. And that takes us right down here to 2.35%. And everything is there. Because so many people buy their home and consider it to be a good investment, that's what makes it the worst way to invest in real estate. But it doesn't have to be that way. There is a way to buy your home and have it still be a really solid investment. So how do we do that? Again, not going to leave you hanging, not going to leave you depressed, going to give you something to do about it. So this is how we buy a home and have it be a good investment. We get someone else to buy it for us. And I'm not being facetious either. Here's what I mean. This concept of getting someone else to buy our house for us is the very concept that makes real estate the final frontier where the average person has a legitimate shot at creating significant wealth. Yes, the answer is real estate, but only when someone else pays for it. Otherwise, as you just saw, it's not a very good investment at all. Here, I'll give you 3 different options to classify your home as a good investment. Because you still need a roof over your head, right? I'm not saying don't live in a house. I'm saying get someone else to pay for your house. So here are 3 options on how to do that. First, go ahead, buy the house, and then rent out the bedrooms to others. Use the rent your roommates give you for those rooms to pay your mortgage, and that will eliminate your biggest house expense, the collective principal and interest that make up your mortgage payments. You see, in that scenario, you're not buying the house. Your roommates are buying the house for you. So that's one way. Second way, you buy the house, you wait a few years for appreciation, wait for the amortization to work, then you refinance out the equity to buy a new house for yourself, and then turn the old house into a rental. Wait a few years for appreciation and the amortization to work. You refinance out the equity to buy another house, a new house for yourself, and turn the previous house into a rental as well. Wait a few years for appreciation and amortization and do it again. The next time you might only have to wait 2 years. And the time after that, maybe just 1 year. As you're building equity through appreciation and amortization on multiple houses now, not just one. You know, it starts off a little slow, but it picks up the pace significantly in just a few years. Alrighty, so that's a second way. Third, find a house to rent and then start buying investment properties instead. Use the cash flow to offset your rent. And as soon as your cash flow amounts to a sum that would pay a new home's expenses, meaning the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance, then buy your home. So the income from the rentals will pay for your home, not you. Yeah, but where do I get the money to buy all those rental properties? Easier said than done, right? Well, where do you get it? You get it the same place you're going to get the money to pay that mortgage for 30 years. $480,000 in that first scenario, or $1.4 million in the second. Done that way, in that sequence, your home is likely to end up being an outstanding investment. So on that note, I made a video just last week, it was super popular, where I demonstrated how any of these three options can all happen for you 10 times faster by using debt to do it. But not how you might think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that video right here so you can click it there. Because if you liked this video, you're going to love this one. Alrighty? Take care.